Welcome to the Zoo House News Channel. Today we will be tackling a subject that has generated debate for over a century. I recently came across an article written by Daniel Hannan from The Telegraph. The title, "Capitalism Not Slavery Made Britain Rich." It's time we stopped apologizing for our past. I actually agree with Mr. Hannan on many of the points he laid out in his article. Unfortunately, he mostly addressed only one of his topics in his presentation, slavery, and he covered it well. I learned a lot from that article. But, in regards to how Britain got its wealth, well, that topic was almost untouched. So, I've decided to cover it for him. For centuries, historians have debated the factors that contributed to Britain's rise to economic dominance during the Industrial Revolution. Some have argued that it was the capitalist system that allowed Britain to become wealthy, while others point to the exploitation of colonies as the primary driver. In this video, we will explore the argument that it was colonialism that made Britain rich, not capitalism. The British Empire was the largest empire in history, spanning over a quarter of the world's land surface at its height in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. The British colonial project involved the subjugation of peoples and the exploitation of resources in distant lands, providing the raw materials and cheap labor that powered the Industrial Revolution. Colonialism allowed Britain to secure a reliable source of raw materials, such as cotton, sugar, tea, and spices, which were essential for the manufacture of goods in the factories of the Industrial Revolution. Through the imposition of unequal trade relationships, the British extracted valuable resources from colonies and paid low prices for them, which allowed British manufacturers to produce goods at lower prices, giving them a competitive advantage in the global marketplace. One of the most egregious examples of this exploitation was the Atlantic slave trade, which saw millions of Africans forcibly transported to the Americas to work on British-owned plantations. This brutal system provided the cheap labor necessary to cultivate crops such as tobacco, sugar, and cotton, which were then shipped back to Britain for processing in factories. The profits from colonial trade and exploitation fueled the growth of British capitalism, allowing British merchants and industrialists to invest in new technologies and machinery, which further increased productivity and profits. The wealth generated by colonialism also allowed Britain to invest in infrastructure, such as railroads and ports, which facilitated trade and commerce. Furthermore, the colonies provided a ready market for British manufactured goods. As Britain's industrial output increased, it needed new markets for its products, and the colonies provided a captive market for British goods. Through a combination of coercion and persuasion, the British forced colonies to trade almost exclusively with Britain, which allowed British manufacturers to maintain high prices and maximize profits. In addition to these economic benefits, colonialism also provided political and military advantages. The British Empire was able to use its military power to secure favorable trade deals and protect its economic interests in the colonies. The British also used the colonies as a base for projecting their power and influence around the world, cementing their position as a global superpower. Furthermore, it is worth noting that capitalism did not emerge in a vacuum. The capitalist system was developed and supported by the state, which created the legal and institutional framework necessary for the accumulation of capital. The state also played a crucial role in securing and expanding Britain's colonial empire, using its military and diplomatic power to assert its dominance over other nations and peoples. It is also worth noting that the benefits of colonialism were not evenly distributed. While the British elite profited enormously from colonialism, the vast majority of the British population did not share in the spoils. The working classes suffered under harsh working conditions and low wages, while the poor and marginalized in the colonies were subjected to brutal exploitation and oppression. It is evident that both colonialism and slavery played significant roles in Britain's rise to economic dominance during the Industrial Revolution, which has helped it maintain great wealth today. The exploitation of colonies provided Britain with access to raw materials and cheap labor, which fueled the growth of British capitalism. The profits generated from colonial trade and exploitation allowed the country to invest in new technologies and infrastructure, further increasing productivity and profits. However, it is essential to acknowledge that the benefits of colonialism were not equally distributed, with the British elite benefiting the most at the expense of the working classes and the poor and marginalized in the colonies. In the 21st century, Britain's economy continues to play an important role in the global economy. The country has a highly diversified economy, with a strong service sector, a thriving financial industry, and a significant manufacturing base. Britain is also home to some of the world's leading universities and research institutions, contributing to innovation and knowledge creation. As a member of the European Union, Britain was an active participant in the world's largest single market, facilitating trade and investment with other member states. However, following its departure from the EU in 2020, Britain is seeking to establish new trade agreements with other countries and regions, including the United States, China, and the Commonwealth. Despite uncertainties around Brexit and the COVID-19 pandemic, Britain's economy remains a key player in the global economy, and its contributions to the world economy are expected to continue in the years ahead. Thanks for listening to this presentation. If you enjoyed this video, then please like and subscribe for more thought-provoking content.